on our rankings committee did not give the undefeated Bo Nickal, who's only left the distance one time, only left the first round one time until this last fight. Who didn't give him a ranking but put Charles Oliveira as number 13 just because he's got a crazy eye? That's a little hard to believe right there. Charles Oliveira's ranked and Bo Nickal isn't in the same weight class? Wow. Tell me how you got to that one, guys.
What's up, guys? Welcome to a brand new episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy. I'm Daniel Cormier. That's the bad guy, Chael P. Please tell me you're not still stuck in New York, man.
Daniel,
please.
The thing about that, we got into mixed martial arts, we got into wrestling, but a lot of it had to do, and the very reasons as a coach I encourage others, it has to do with confidence to make the right decision. When you see an athlete that falls into drugs and alcohol, it's an extra surprise because they had the strength to stand up and say no. Yeah. I put all of that strength of 22 years of fighting to work today down in the deli. I say I would like an egg salad on an everything bagel toasted. Now, once he toasts it, I get the idea to add a little bit of sharp cheese to help to melt into the bread. But here was the finale. And he argued with the cheese, by the way. He said, hey, man, you put a little cracked pepper on egg salad and nothing else. I said, I'll have the cheese, please. And then I went with shredded lettuce. And if you have ever, and he thought this was gross, he didn't even want to serve it. It was a whole thing for him to do it. But I had the courage, Daniel, and I had the conviction to stay after it. And if there is ever a time that you get down on your knees and think there's a higher entity somewhere in the world, egg salad with shredded lettuce and a little cheddar at 7 in the morning, it proves it. There's no other way to explain it.
It was good?
It was fantastic. And I keep telling you shredded lettuce because it was a texture issue. Now I just put a salad on a salad. If you put mayonnaise on shredded lettuce, you have a salad. I buy 2 salads this morning for the same price of $3.99.
That is absolutely disgusting. But that's what happens when you're stuck in New York for 10 days. You can't be in that place for 10 days. It's not Atlantic City, but it is not the best to be stuck in New York for 10 days.
Daniel, have you ever done Vegas for 10 days?
No. Oh, yeah, I did. When I did The Ultimate Fighter, and it was not good, bro.
It's not good.
It is not
30 days in Las Vegas? Oh, my goodness. And I even brought my 2 cats and my dog with me to make it feel like home. Boy, that's a long time in that city.
Yeah, because when all the fights going and it's just life, it's no fun, man. So, Chael, last week we were all in New York City. Thank goodness I'm home. But we went there to watch Jon Jones fight Stipe Miocic. We promised on Monday we would talk more about Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira. But now, for the record, I got this question from the people that make this show. Mike, please, Mike, don't get me. Hey, bro, yesterday I got a call from Michael Chandler. It wasn't good.
He's sensitive to you. He's sensitive to things you say.
Bro, that was the first time Michael Chandler has ever gotten mad at me. And I felt like I need to make it right because he doesn't get mad. He doesn't get mad. And I'm hard on him, Chael. I'm hard on him. But he got mad yesterday. So we're going back and forth in text messages. And then finally he calls me. You know somebody's mad when they call you. So then we start talking about the back of the head shots and everything. But I feel like I owe him an apology because he don't get mad. Bro, people are labeling Michael Chandler a cheater based on what I said. Because I said he was hitting the dude behind the head. So he's been getting that he's a cheater bad, bro. Bad. Hey, and for a guy like Mike, who's a good guy, he doesn't like that. It don't feel good to him. So this dude came directly to me. But anyway, so Mike, please, Mike, don't get at me for this question. So when we were brainstorming questions, this was one Chael came up with. Chael, I'm just tasked with asking it to you. Michael Chandler fights the fight, loses the fight, cuts a promo. We always get mad about promos, right? Because they don't do them well. Michael Chandler did a promo after losing. It would seem as though that is not necessarily the way things work. But when you saw him do that, did it tell you that the wins and losses aren't as important anymore? That he's more of an entertainer, Chael? Is that how you wanted me to phrase that whenever we did our production meeting? Is that a good way to phrase the question you came up with?
Yes. Hey, Michael Chandler's one heck of a fighter. Listen, it turns out a couple of things, and I didn't realize this until Charles Oliveira's last fight. It was against Circarian. And by the way, Oliveira lost it. But Daniel, I'm going to shine my own wheels, but they brought me down front. Glenn Jacobs brings me down front, tells me I've got an interview. It was the night they were going to induct me into the Hall of Fame. A very wonderful moment, but it was a surprise, and I only offer you that story because I'm so close. I can hear things. I can see things. I can see their eyes. Charles, in defeat, I understood that I was the one on third base wearing a catcher's mitt in terms of resisting his greatness. He is a very special fighter. And I do love the part that Michael Chandler knows this is a job. And the most important thing in any job, it's not to be here early and stay late. It's not to work hard. It's not even to make sure that your profits exceed your expenditures. The number one thing is that you make sure today you have a job to come to tomorrow. That is the number one that all of us and all of our viewers have to do. And Michael Chandler set a job up for himself for tomorrow. Charles Oliveira got his hand raised. You and I haven't had a discussion on what's next for him because we don't know everything from title shot on down. We don't have him aligned with any specific opponent. And title shot is difficult considering Islam and Figueiredo are already signed and it doesn't even happen until next year. I mean, not for nothing, Chandler is the one that followed the rule. And yes, he was an entertainer and he had that scripted, he had it planned out, but look, he did the math during that fight, and he started dropping backdrops and everything else and playing to the crowd. I think he did a good job. And the first person, he actually snubbed him. If you watch this on video from my perspective, you were down close, so you didn't see it maybe. But Hunter and Dana, they came over. They were very respectful. President Trump, part of the cabinet. Chandler had his back, though, and a guy kept tapping him. And a guy kept tapping, and he went for the high five, and Chandler did what we call left him hanging, and he went for a shake, and he left him hanging. That guy was Triple H. So Triple H, that's in the entertainment business, left his seat, came over to Fashion Row, and wanted to tell Chandler, good job. I think that Chandler did do a good job. I mean, listen, the one thing that Chandler and Conor now have in common is they didn't win their last fight. Oh, wait a minute. The one thing they have in common is neither one of them won their last 2 fights. So all Chandler's doing is getting his record a little closer to McGregor's.
I actually believe that him losing what benefited him in getting the McGregor fight. McGregor literally was for the first time, gave Chandler a compliment. Y'all should cut Michael Chandler. No way, I'm just kidding. He's a good little fighter. Great job, Mike. That doesn't happen. Conor don't put you over. He ain't putting Michael Chandler over. He hasn't done it when they've been scheduled to fight for 2 years. All he wanted to do was degrade him. But now he's putting him over. But he also now goes, yeah, I'll fight this guy. But here's the deal. Chandler, to me, feels like, and he said as such yesterday, he goes, I fought like crap. I got my butt kicked. I said, well, Mike, you won. He goes, but still. I go, Mike, he goes, you got to understand the rule, right? And we start talking about the rule and everything. I was like, okay, Mike. I was like, well, I still saw this, but he knows. I go, you won, even though you didn't win the fight. People are excited about you. That's hard to do. Your last name has to be Diaz to have that.
Correct.
No matter what you do, like Nate Diaz could lose 24 and a half minutes of a fight against Leon Edwards, punch him once, rock him, point at him, and poor Leon Edwards. All we're talking about is Nate Diaz rocking him, right? Like, it's not about what he did. Chandler's at that point. Hey, Chandler got his butt kicked, man. As much as we love Mike, he got his butt kicked by Charles Oliveira, but the lasting thing out of that fight is Mike picking him up, jumping backwards. Like, seriously, that's what people remember. Yes, he's an entertainer. He understands he's an entertainer, and he's comfortable with that right now, but he's also going to make a lot of money in big fights now. Because I truly do believe that this fight, that performance, opened the door for him to fight against Conor again or get that fight rescheduled, and I believe that Conor will be more open to it today. But so you did agree with the post-fight press conference, because Chael, to be honest with you, when I would lose, I would like be in depression. Like, I was almost mourning. Dude, I would literally put black curtains up in my house and stay there for a month crying. I couldn't do a promo. Like, I literally stand there and want to cry the whole time. How did he do that? Like, but do you think he knew? Like you said, he did the math in the fight. Like, yes, this one's done. Let's move on.
Yeah, that's right. He did the math, and he was in a very good spot either way. I mean, he was either going to go after Conor or he was going to go after, well, right now Islam, but it'd be the winner of Islam versus Figueiredo. And a couple other things with Chandler. First off, I want to hear how your conversation ended about the illegal shots, because I also felt he did hit the back of the head, but that could be an interesting nuance within the New York State rules.
Yep. No, he said that there's a 1-inch strip down the back.
Yes,
that you got to hit. And you got to come straight down to it. Listen, man.
Wow.
Mike and I had a conversation.
And I thought that's exactly where you could not hit him.
Yes, you cannot hit him there. Now, Mike and I had a great conversation. I don't know that we accomplished much because I do feel like some strayed. But again, he's saying he didn't punch him behind the head. But all of this was catching him in that spot. So I don't think that we're going to get to a conclusion. I just know that it must have meant something for Mike to be that upset because he never does. And he even said, he goes, in this conversation, Mike's a great guy. He goes, this conversation shouldn't be happening. You guys should not have to answer the stuff like that. But I know our relationship, so I felt the need to talk to you about it. But again, it's like his feelings were hurt because he hasn't done anything wrong. So to get labeled certain thing based on what I said really did bother him a little bit.
Yeah, and he is the next best thing. I mean, he might be my favorite fighter to watch. When Frankie Edgar retired, I've been looking for a favorite fighter, and I will tell you, Chandler is right at the top of the heap. It was only hard to select him because he went on hiatus for McGregor, but if I could defend him real fast, his last 2 losses, both in very fun fights where he did have moments, are against Charles Oliveira, who we believe is now going to go fight for the undisputed title, and to Dustin Poirier, who we believe is going to go fight for the BMF title. So, yes, maybe Chandler's not who he thought he was or hoped he was at 37 and still the guy, but he's right next to the guy, and there's plenty of great fights left. I would be very curious on a hypothetical line of him and McGregor, because let me remind you, this might surprise you if you didn't know this, Conor was the favorite. Going into their signed bout on June 29th, Conor...
He will be again.
Favorite. That surprises me, DC.
He will be again. He'll be the favorite again.
And I don't think because the odds makers predict him. I think because the money that comes in
money
on
will go
Conor people.
No, that is also a factor. But I also believe that when you look at the matchup and Mike being unwilling to take him down, that's why. Because people feel, look, man, it's hard to get rid of a memory, right? Once something is embedded in your mind, it's hard to get rid of it. People can't forget who Conor McGregor was. Even when he was knocking out Chad Mendes and he was knocking out Jose Aldo. Dude, that was almost 10 years ago. That was all like 2016.
Well said.
You know, like, you can't get rid of that memory. So they think that guy still exists, especially when you get a guy in Mike who goes forward and takes damage and is not wrestling. So that's why I think he would be instilled as a favorite. But I think that today, Chael, we are closer to that fight happening than we were even when it was originally scheduled. Because I believe McGregor's smart and probably looked at that fight and goes, he got hurt many times by Oliveira. I thought he was going to get finished, dude. That's why I thought he was going to get finished. He was getting hit with shots that would knock most people out. But he kept going and kept going and going. I don't know that people believe that he'll be able to stand up to those shots from McGregor, or at least Conor won't believe that he would be able to stand up to those types of attacks. So I feel like we're much closer to that fight today than we were even 2 years ago when they did The Ultimate Fighter.
And DC, if we're going to wrap that topic, but the point of that topic was to go back to our previous show, I also have a correction. Listen, I was told by a very good source, James Madison, he watches all of the stuff. I was told while the press conference was going on that Dana White had announced that they were, in fact, making Tom relinquish the interim championship. That is fake news. Tom is, and I don't know how. By the way,
I was going to say, how in the world did they do that?
Well, if Tom is the interim champion, then what is John? They introduced him as the undisputed champion. They said the fight was for the undisputed title.
Yeah, but it isn't undisputed if you got an interim champion.
That's what I'm saying. So somehow they have not stripped Tom. They need to, but I'm just sharing with you. I announced that on ESPN's platform here. I got to go back and correct that. That did not happen at the press conference, and I apologize.
Nah, it's all good, Chael. Like, I got to be honest with you. Sometimes there are things that might skew the line of fiction versus reality, and I only recognize it was fiction after we're done with the show. Go back and I think, I don't know if that was true, or if I might have told a fib.
Will you try shredded lettuce on egg salad sometime? Are you an egg salad guy? That's a kind of guy. You like egg?
I'm out of mayonnaise. I'm not a mayonnaise guy. I think mayonnaise is disgusting. You love mayonnaise?
If you bring me a sandwich and you don't have mayonnaise, you did not bring me a sandwich. Don't even invite me over to serve me a burger and then I find out you don't have mayonnaise. You must have mayonnaise for it to be a sandwich.
Only cat. So I feel like mayonnaise is like disgusting. And dude, can I be honest? Like all my white friends love mayonnaise. It's like the craziest thing. You guys all love mayonnaise, but all my black friends like ketchup. It's like a black. I don't know.
I don't either. I don't know who to ask. I want to ask. I'm trying to ask you sensitively, but Why is that? I've had that same experience. Coach Clayton won't touch it.
I'm telling you, it's disgusting. But it's like the ketchup has a little sweet to it. Mayonnaise is just lumpy and disgusting. I don't know why you guys love it.
What about Miracle Whip, for example?
Not eating Miracle Whip. I don't eat mayonnaise. I don't eat mayonnaise, bro.
Well, Miracle Whip is actually something different. It's a competitive mayonnaise.
Not even mayonnaise.
Major point.
So, Chael, I was getting it bad the other day from everybody, bro. Like, so Bo Nickal was also a little disappointed in the broadcasting because we said he's not ready for Hamzat yet. Bro, come on. That was not, dude, I didn't think it was a bad performance. I thought he fought pretty well, but he's essentially, he just started training in 21. He's turned pro in 22. He's 2 years in. He's already 7-0 now. He just beat Paul Craig, who has already submitted a guy fighting for the UFC light heavyweight championship, has submitted a former UFC champion. That is a big step up in competition for a guy that's so new. Naturally, the progression is to give him something bigger. Essentially, what I was saying, Chael, was slow down. He's not ready for something bigger just yet. Doesn't need to be fighting the best guys in the world just because he needs time to get experience. But he took offense to that. He was a little bit hurt. What did you make of Bo Nickal, of his performance? And, like, you know, him coming out and flat out going, it kind of sucked. And he said it respectfully, right? Because he's a great guy.
Of course.
He's a great kid, right? He said it respectfully, but what did you make of all that?
Well, I went straight to Bo. I was very upset with it. Now, I must tell you, when I was very upset with it and I went right to Bo, I thought I was the only one. So I did it from a perspective of, hey, let me show you the other side of this coin, young man. You, at least by appearance, did not get on top of that guy because somebody got in your ear and told you were not good enough.
Oh, I love that point you made. I love that. I love that point you made when you said.
I got a problem with that.
I love that you said somebody fooled him. Somebody fooled a 3-time world champ not to use his best skill.
And then, Daniel, on top of all that, it's like, well, let's juxtapose this, right? We had this really great dimensional guy known as Alex Pereira. He came over here, but he used his tools. He didn't start using somebody else's tools. He brought his tools to this sport. Now, Bo just did that same thing in reverse. And if I do look at that Bo that fought Paul Craig, he is not ready for Khamzat Chimaev. That Bo that I'm referring to, that fought Paul Craig, is the guy that never did a takedown, never even attempted a takedown. So if you're going to tell me right now that Bo's going to fight Khamzat Chimaev and he's never going to even attempt to take him down, the line is going to sway so heavily towards Khamzat, your head will spin. So I do think that we're right. And as far as Bo going out and showing that he's got stand-up ability, he did some things really well. Keeps his hands up most of the time, keeps his chin down pretty well, moves his feet constantly. The speed is there. The power could always improve as you get a little bit more comfortable. That was so what? I don't really understand how I don't get it. I don't get how that can be the plan. I don't get how you can be intimidated to go in there with somebody that's got pretty good skills on their back. He's better off of his back. Well, who's not? I mean, that's where the problem comes. I don't want to insult Paul Craig, but if you're telling me that Paul is so good off of his back, you can't go there. Paul is not the best within the division. In fact, he's not even ranked in the top 15. So what is it we're saying and who is it we're getting this information from? That's where I had a hard time with it. There is another side of the coin where I can give a lot of compliments, but the first time I watched Bo beat a world champion, that world champion was Mark Hall. It was the cadet trials. He was 15 years old. They beat him twice in one day. He did not beat a world champion twice in one day as a 15-year-old child by leaving his best skills in the back. The people that were in his ear back then told him, what you do, you can do better than the world champion, and he believed them. Now somebody's telling him you are not good enough or you're not experienced enough to go do what you do best, and that was a problem. I mean, if we do go look, let's go back to the Chandler fight. What Oliveira did is Oliveira did not put his game plan together, and Oliveira was the performance of the night. He performed a little better than everybody, and he had to do it for 25 minutes. I mean, a lot of things against him. He had to overcome adversity. Oliveira, when he put his plan together, asked himself, what do I like to do, and what is it I do well? That's what George St. Pierre used to ask himself. That's what Daniel Cormier used to ask himself. He did not go out and say, what does the other guy like to do? And what does my opponent do well, as a way of then shaping my ideas? I've never seen Bo do that before. I do not believe that Bo will do it again. And we have the right to be critical. Now, if everyone's going to pile on a guy that remains undefeated, probably going to break into the rankings, definitely maintains his place on main cards at very beautiful shows, I think he can handle a little bit of a bump. But this was a mistake, and that mistake does need to be rectified.
I just don't want him to get moved too fast. That's it. I've seen many great prospects get pushed too quickly. They get beat. Hey, this ain't professional wrestling where you control the story. Sometimes you go so fast, it can go sideways, or you can overcome. So I can only relate it to myself. I fought Jeff Munson, who could not take me down, so it was an easy fight. Then they made me fight Bigfoot Silva when I was barely into my career.
Oh.
I don't know that I was ready to fight him at that point. He had just beat Fedor Emelianenko. I did, and it gave me a confidence that made me go to the roof or through the moon like I did in my career. But in reality, I was so young in the game. If that would have went sideways, I would have never done anything again. Because then you start to question everything you can do. There are two sides to the coin. I think Bo Nickal at some point is going to be a world champion. I really do. I think he's good. I think he's got great wrestling, obviously. I think he's got tremendous striking. I think he'll be fine. Good cardio. He can do it all. But I do believe that he's going to have to mix the arts a little better. He can't just go out there and strike, you know? He said, and I hated seeing the amount of nastiness he received for his comment. But at the end of the day, everybody's watching this. These aren't opinions that are of a few. We're on the biggest fight card of the year. People are watching John Jones. So if you fight like that, it's hard. And then to say, he said, the people that really matter to me, the people that truly care, they tell me the truth. I got to be honest with you, man. Sometimes I was paying my guys, right? They all made their checks off me. They didn't always go, well, DC, you look like crap today. They just didn't say it. Like, that's where the check came from. So it's a little bit hard. But yes, I thought he fought well. I thought he did a good job. I think he'll be good. I just think he needs time. But did you notice how small he looked in there compared to Paul Craig?
He did look lean. Yeah, well, and Paul was taller, he was bigger, his shoulders were broader. Paul's a big guy. You know, he wasn't the small 205-pounder, Paul. He wasn't like the little guy you looked at. He's almost the height of Dominic Reyes. I mean, not for nothing. Yes, I did notice that. And Paul was shocked. Oh, my goodness, if he could go back. I mean, he learned some lessons, too, about, oh, don't panic, don't fear, don't worry. He had no idea what's going to happen. Paul go to bed every night, I'm sure, thinking about his best armbar and triangle setup, but realizing he's probably going to go out there and get smothered. And it was complete opposite. Paul was not ready for it. And I wasn't either. As I'm watching that fight, I mean, eventually 30 seconds turns into a minute, turns into a round, turns into 3 of them. We pack up and go home. But I was waiting. I thought that Bo was setting him up. The whole time I thought, okay, Bo's going to work his way inside. He's going to dip. He's setting him up. He wasn't setting him up, man. He was trying to kickbox, and it just wasn't necessary.
Even one time it looked like he almost went for a level change and he stopped. Look, here's the deal. You can't not grapple with a guy like Paul Craig. You can't not grapple with a guy like Paul Craig. He's good. He's got some submission ability. But there are going to be people that are much more dangerous as you go forward into your career. So you got to be willing to take the chance, you know? You got to be willing to take the chance and go and grapple with these dudes, especially when you're that good of a wrestler as Bo Nickal is. So who would you like to see him fight next? Look, there we go. I was trying to get the bottom of the top 15. If you say he needs a top 15 guy yet, I still think that he's still somewhere in the 20 to 30 range is where I think that he should be fighting next, because I think he's 2 fights from being ready for those guys in the top 15 if you're doing it the right way with him. Because listen to the top 15 or the bottom 5 of the top 15. There's one guy in there I think he could fight very, very well right now. 15 is Michel Pereira. You might be able to fight him pretty good. 14 is Shara Bullet. 13 is Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. 12 is Jack Hermanson, who we just saw beat Joe Pyfer. And 10 is Roman Dolidze. I think he could fight Dolidze effectively, and I think he could fight Pereira effectively. But, I mean, look at the level of fighter that are at the bottom of the top 15 at middleweight. I mean, Pereira just lost for the first time in 7 fights.
Yeah, and stay away from Fluffy. That would be my first piece.
That dude is pretty good, man.
That's for anybody. Everybody might want. That's a hard night right there. You know, I'm going to stay out of this. And I hate when people don't play the game, would you rather, and then they don't play the game. But I am going to stick with that DC for one reason. I believe that Bo, because he underwhelmed, I believe that Bo has passed back that invincibility card. Bo couldn't even get matched up. Dana couldn't get guys to agree to do it. It's one of the reasons that they got to put him in these beautiful spots on the card. It's not just because they like Bo. They gotta sweeten the pot for the opponent. And I don't believe that Bo is the boogie monster anymore. I believe that he's going to be called out by somebody. Now, whether that's a top 12 or 14 through 20, we'll see. But I do think he'll be called out, and I'd like to see that match happen. Whoever sees that skill and thinks I can beat him, I think they ought to be able to have the opportunity.
You know who I want? I want like Jin Young Park. That's who I want. That's who I want. The
interesting fight.
You know why? I want a guy like that who can strike really well, but is big and strong for the weight class, can defend takedowns, and will test Bo Nickal in all those ways that he needs to be tested to see if he moves forward. Because you got to remember, he's very strong.
He's got a good center of gravity. You're not just going to attack his hips and take him down.
You're not going to just run him over, and you're going to have to actually fight him. But I want to see him in there with these types of guys. Like I'm looking at Brad Tavares. I'm looking at Petrosky. Maybe put him in there with Mearshart. Put him in there with Mearshart. Let's see if he's willing to go to the ground with that dude. I want him in there with guys like that have a name that aren't necessarily the best guys in the division just yet. And I think it takes time.
And I also rescind my apology for not playing the game. Me not giving you a name. What you did is give me every damn name. So I don't really see how that one's any better. And by the way,
I gave you like
who in our rankings committee did not give the undefeated Bo Nickal, who's only left the distance one time, only left the first round one time until this last fight? Who didn't give him a ranking but put Shar Bullet as number 13 just because he's got a crazy eye? That's a little hard to believe right there. Shar Bullet's ranked and Bo Nickal isn't in the same weight class. Wow. Tell me how you got to that one, guys.
Oh, Shar Bullet's tough, man. He's good. Hey, Dana's been on the ranking people right now.
Shar Bullet is fun. Shar Bullet is fun. He's terrible. What do you mean Shar Bullet's good? I watched him in a street fight in a mall, and he put a little more effort out than he should have had to have. I watched it 3 times. They kept saying, "Look, I watched Shar Bullet fight in the mall." I had to watch it 3 times because I couldn't quite see which way the eye was facing to know who was who. And it was a pretty close fight. Yeah, now he's fun. I'm into the Shar Bullet. He's good. He's ranked and Bo's not in the same weight. Daniel, please. You don't mean that.
Chael, you're so crazy, dude. I don't know what's wrong with you. All right, Chael, this weekend we get Deiveson Figueiredo versus Petr Yan. Petr Yan is a massive favorite. What does this mean for the bantamweight division? The former champ at flyweight, Deiveson Figueiredo, and the former bantamweight champion, Petr Yan. Big-time fight from Macau, China.
Petr Yan is so darn good. And Daniel, when he went off that edge, he had a really hard time coming back. I mean, he really did. The fact that he's even put in a main event opposite a former world champion is kind of like, all right, we're going to give you one more try here. By the way, I like Yan in the fight. I was with Deiveson Figueiredo when we played Spear. And I never met him before, but he's with Captain E, Eric Alberison. And so Eric's kind of translating, and he and I are having a nice conversation. Figueiredo's got his shirt on. He's trying to call out Sean O'Malley. He's trying to get in front of Nurmagomedov and try to be given this opportunity. And I'm looking at him going, well, for a poster, if I got to make a poster and it's going to be Merab and Nurmagomedov, or I could put Deiveson Figueiredo on a poster, who Nurmagomedov undefeated, Deiveson Figueiredo, former world champion. You're starting to let me know you've got a point here. And Merab was doing a real good job of calling out Figueiredo and saying, I don't believe it is Nurmagomedov next. Okay, I tell you that whole story because do you want to know why they walked up to me? It wasn't to say, hi, Chael. It was to then a pocket full of cash. They were asking me if I had a couple of tickets they could buy. Figueiredo is the former world champion who's trying to get a number 1 contendership, did not get access to the building. He was not on the comp list. They could not change that. He flew over here to take in the show, and he took it in outside. He ended up filming himself and holding it for Instagram. He was outside with the audience watching it on the screen. And I'm only sharing with you that this is a really hard fight. And I don't know that I'm quite on board with missing this guy. And I do mean either of them. Figueiredo was a world champion at 125. Generally, you got to come up to a new weight class one successful time. and then you fight right for a belt. Use Pereira as a recent example. Figueiredo's not only come up, he's knocked out former world champions. Cody Garbrandt comes to mind. He's won multiple fights. And I think that this fight really does deserve some attention at a minimum. It's a hard fight for both guys. And one of their fall, Daniel, I can't tell you the winner is going to go right into talks for a title, but I can tell you the loser will never be in those talks again.
You know what I love about this fight? Petr Yan, when he was at his best, it was almost like watching a guy that was a human computer. He would almost take in, remember how he would always start slow in the first round. And then in round 2 to 5, he would already have his rhythm, he would have his timing, and he would just destroy dudes. He went and got Jose Aldo when he won the world title back in the day. Him and Sean O'Malley, a fight that many thought that he actually won against Sean O'Malley, is one of those fights that comes to mind. Every fight this dude has tremendous boxing. He's got really, really high-level wrestling. He's got great cardio, champion mentality. He lost to Sean O'Malley, and he lost to Merab Dvalishvili when Merab shot 50 times over the course of five rounds. He hasn't lost to bad guys, and he lost to Aljo twice. One by disqualification, one whenever Aljo beat him to retain the championship. He's as good as he has always been. He's in this main event because he feels, or the UFC still feels, as though he's viable, and he could contend for a championship. But in Deiveson Figueiredo, you got a guy that killed himself for years to try to get back down to 125. And as the time went on, you saw how bad or how much the weight cut was affecting him. Because that last Brandon Moreno fight, he didn't even look like the same guy. But since going up to 135, he looks like a world beater. He looks strong. He looks physical. He looks like he can handle this weight class and more. I think this fight for Figueiredo earned him a championship opportunity. Because, Chael, it's not as though 135 is clear. Sandhagen's still there. O'Malley's still there, obviously. Merab is fighting against Umar Nurmagomedov. But a great performance by Figueiredo seems like it'll put him right in line to fight for a championship. It's a big fight, man. And I know that the people in Macau are going to be having fun. Can you believe people went straight from New York to Macau, China to work? That's nuts.
They're awesome. They do not get the credit, man. We got the same thing at ESPN. There's almost so much room on the screen, but yeah, man, there's some awesome crews out there for sure. I got to tell you, we had a package that we played. It was made by one of our teammates at ESPN for Stipe's retirement. When Stipe retired, they were going to play it whether he won or he lost, but they went back to the beginning of his career, man. They had drones that were flying as establishing shots over Cleveland. They told his whole story. They compared him to Superman. You, I think, might have even done the voiceover. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah, you know, hey, when they got Robbie Lawler, you remember when they got Robbie Lawler? He in the cage after he knocked that dude out, Robbie started crying. I started crying. I saw Robbie Lawler last Friday in New York City, and I was like, yo, man, when you retired, and it was picture perfect. You knocked him out, Nico Price, and then you're in there, you know, Robbie's hard. He's a tough veteran, right? Started way back in the day at Militich Fighting Systems. Remember Militich, Steve?
Of course. 3 world champions out of 5 guys. I know him.
Robbie starts to quiver. When that bottom lip quiver, Chael, I said, oh, I'm crying, Joe's crying, Annick's wiping tears. It was crazy to watch, man. They do a great job of putting those things together. They even got me with Carla Esparza. I didn't know how much I like Carla Esparza until Carla Esparza retired.
To the Cookie Monster. What a great tribute. You know, she ate $1,000. Was it a cupcake? She paid $1,000 for this a Sunday. It was a Sunday. After she won the world title, she put $1,000 and it had gold in it. But you can eat the gold. It was edible gold. I said, girl, was it worth $1,000? It sounded disgusting. She goes, oh, yeah, it was worth $1,000. I want to try that Sunday so bad. If you ever get $1,000 Sunday, will you please let me have a bite? You don't need the whole thing. Come on.
I don't need the whole thing, but sadly, I'll probably eat.
That came out.
Hey, Chael, I don't need the whole thing, but sadly, I would probably eat the whole thing. Hey, guys, that's another episode of Good Guy, Bad Guy. Get us wherever you get your podcasts. ESPN Plus, ESPN2, ESPN MMA YouTube. For Chael Sonnen, I'm Daniel Cormier. Until next time, guys, peace. Enjoy New York.
I love when you tell people where to get the podcast. They're already here.